Do not, I repeat, do not let these folks hijack the movement. I spoke earlier about the wobbling in the middle of the road with the National Guard. I'm seeing images of Black Panthers with their powerful image and the historical nature, but then being locked arm in arm with law enforcement. I'm seeing roll up basketball goals used for officers to play a game of pickup with the poor inner city kids. Listen, we didn't get to this historical moment that we're in now by shaking our ass doing the wobble. We didn't get to this historical moment by now that we're in now by locking hand in hand with those that we are currently in negotiation with. We didn't get to this point that we're in right here, right now, by shooting layups and assisting officers as far as on the court. We are in a demand era. We have not heard back from many of our demands. There have been a number of small victories around the country. It's the war that we are interested in winning. Don't hand over your momentum. Don't allow certain clergy, no disrespect to the ones that I roll with. Don't allow certain clergy to come in and create this kumbaya moment. Listen, we're not looking for a kumbaya moment, and we're not looking for apologies. We're looking for policy. To my comrades that are of Caucasian persuasion, keep the damn pressure going. You've heard me say all the time, it's truly not the burden of Asiatic, African, Black, melanated folks to end and dismantle white supremacy. That is up to you. Now, please believe, folks like myself, we're going to continue to do what we do. But don't let these folks hijack the movement. With that said, so thankful to all of you that have been now uplifting the voice of Kendrick Johnson. We know that here in Georgia, we have a layered cake as it relates to Ahmaud Arbery, unethical behavior by district attorneys, the murder. Now that we understand that the murderer being the son of former law enforcement, of the former chief investigator of the DA's office who stood over Ahmaud Arbery's dead or dying body and screamed out nigger with some explicitives. That makes that hate crime that my legislative comrades are pushing here in Georgia. Not the end all tell all for me, but I definitely support it. Kendrick Johnson, thank you guys for uplifting his name amongst this Ahmaud Arbery, amongst this Breonna Taylor, amongst this George Floyd, and the shitload of others. Kendrick, what up, Mr. and Mrs. J? We've been fighting for over 7 years. 7 years. Kendrick is the only case that involves the local school system, specifically a school in that school system, Lowndes County High School. It involves the funeral home. It involves the GBI lab. It involves the local law enforcement in Valdosta. It involves the FBI. It involves the FBI in the crosshairs, because let's not forget, it was the now retired, currently then, FBI agent and his two sons that went to school with Kendrick that were targets of the federal investigation. There's so much information. That's why this is an informative rally, Saturday in Centennial Park at noon. Again, joined by Mr. and Mrs. Johnson and the Johnson family, and some folks that I'm happy to say will be standing with us. I won't even announce it. Be there with us at noon this Saturday. Kendrick Johnson, there has been 3 autopsies now. Many of you only knew of 2. The first autopsy done inside the GBI lab that said he died of positional asphyxiation. He jumped headfirst into a rolled up wrestling mat in the corner of the gymnasium to retrieve a shoe, got stuck and died, suffocated under his own body weight. There's so much to talk about, like the EMT's initial report that supports the second autopsy. You know, the second autopsy that Mr. and Mrs. Johnson exhumed their child's remains. And by the way, the city of Valdosta did everything in their damn power to prevent that from happening. Hear more about that Saturday. But, you know, when they dug their dead child from the earth, the truth was dug up. Not only did the second autopsy result in non-accidental blunt force trauma, which there's a linkage to the original EMT report, hemorrhaging in the main area of the main artery on the neck. We'll talk more about how we believe that happened. Kendrick was missing every single organ in his body, everything. No heart, lungs, brain, liver, everything. And he was missing his entire tongue and windpipe. Gone. Stuffed, the empty cavities, stuffed with newspaper and magazine articles. I remember it was said to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson that that's not illegal to do that, the stuffing of the cavities with these types of fillers, but it's not in the best practice. Well, since then, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson have exhumed their child for a second time, making a third autopsy. Can you imagine the condition of this young child, 17 years old, who went to school on January 10th, 2013, was discovered January 11th within this wrestling mat, went to school with a book bag and rolled out in a body bag. Thank you all for finally getting on board on one of the most corrupt cases in the history of Georgia and this country. The FBI is involved. The Department of Justice was the governing body of this investigation, specifically out of the Homicide Division, directly out of D.C. The DOJ, next to that beautiful building, the FBI headquarters that bears the name of a racist J. Edgar Hoover. How in the hell the FBI still stands upright considering their name bears a known person, a known criminal? But then this case was literally one of three of the top domestic priorities of the United States Attorney General. During KJ's investigation, power shifted from Eric Holder to Loretta Lynch. I'm speaking of when it was in Loretta Lynch's hands. It was one of her top three domestic priorities. Hear why we feel this investigation was terminated. Hear why we will explain to you that the family was told that the second autopsy is the most accurate, but we don't have enough information to charge any individuals or one individual, therefore it must be closed. Hear from us, the parents and myself and supporters, on why Kendrick's clothes that he was wearing that day have never been found, why all 10 of Kendrick's nails were cut back to the point of bruising. Hear from us while surveillance video from that high school, hours upon hours, are missing, are blacked out. Come hear from us. Come stand with us. And to all the families, because we've been a tight circle over these past 7+ years. I'm going to be reaching out to each one of you guys. Listen, you know, if you've been down with us and we've been down with you, come stand with us and let your own stories be told. This Saturday, noon, in Centennial Park, as we demand that this case be reopened on a number of levels. There's more to come, man. Youngsters, keep it pushing. Shout out to all my youngsters out there, man. What up, Mary? So proud of y'all. To the folks that are in between the bridges, continue to be words of wisdom and support for these youngsters. The nation is literally on fire. The world is on fire. Never effing forget that fire didn't start by us dancing, shooting hoops, or doing dancing, shooting hoops, or photo opping with law enforcement. Now ain't the time. Meet our demands, then we can talk. Until then, man, each reach, teach. Join us Saturday. Peace.